Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and it's been a big week of going to the theater for me, I guess. I went 5 times within 1 week, probably the most I've ever been to the theater in such a short span of time. Usually I might go once or twice a month, and the movies I saw this week have ranged from okay to great. I thankfully didn't see anything I thought was truly bad, and that includes the movie I'm reviewing today, Final Destination Bloodlines, which I'd put somewhere in the middle of okay and great, possibly even making it good.
We might have a chance.
When I first heard about a new Final Destination movie in the works, especially one with the subheading Bloodlines, my assumption was that it would either never emerge from the franchise's long development hell, or that it would be some direct-to-streaming dog shit. But with the unfortunate, tragic passing of Tony Todd, who played the franchise's most recurring character Bloodworth, the mortician who first gave the franchise its structure through the rules he laid out,
your friend's departure shows that death has a new design for all of you.
And who returns in this 6th entry as Todd's final film role, well, this definitely gave Bloodlines more pressure to be good, when otherwise it could have maybe been allowed to quietly suck.
To truly break the cycle, you have to die.
I like the Final Destination franchise alright. I've seen all of them at least twice, and I only think the 4th is really a bad movie, but the concept of the series that makes it unique and scary is also something that keeps me from really fixating on Final Destination as a franchise personally. But I'll get into that later. Still, overall, I think the Final Destination movies are pretty good, but this 6th one, after its long development, seemed destined for catastrophe like the would-be and eventually be victims of this series. Especially with Bloodlines being directed by the duo who directed Leprechaun Origins and the live-action Kim Possible movie.
Kim Possible! Get her!
But somehow, against all odds, like cheating death, Bloodlines manages to be a pretty good sequel, and I'll explain why I think that is with my review of Final Destination Bloodlines. But first I have a message from my sponsor, me! Pledge to my Patreon today to support the channel, help it continue to grow, and you'll also get access to weekly movie nights every Sunday, and archive commentaries if you missed the movie nights live. Just $5 a month to get a movie night every week. I'll be streaming all the Final Destination movies to date with my Patreon supporters starting Sunday. Pledge to patreon.com/drwolfula if you're interested in my bonus streams, and I thank you in advance. Also, special thanks again to my Patreon supporter Kevin for giving me an AMC gift card, which I also used to see this movie.
Death is coming for our family.
Final Destination Bloodlines tells the tale of Iris Campbell and her descendants, her bloodline, if you will. Back in 1968, Iris is taken by her boyfriend and future husband Paul to the grand opening of the Skyview restaurant. Basically the Space Needle, without getting in trouble for depicting the brutal destruction of the Space Needle, which is vividly depicted in detail within the film because a young Sheldon-looking motherfucker threw pennies off the Skyview, which, through a series of unlikely events, causes the tower to collapse, killing everybody inside. The opening sequence in 1968 is brimming with suspense because the film takes its time to get to the mayhem, establishing all the different ways things can go wrong. It's just a matter of time. But the circumstances surrounding the tower's collapse are pretty ridiculous, even by Final Destination standards, and the use of CGI to realize the tower is an unfortunate compromise because they likely couldn't get permission to shoot at the actual Space Needle. Showing it blow up is bad for business, but the Skyview restaurant just doesn't look very believable, so it's hard to take the opening chaos totally seriously. The opening deaths are insane, though. We see a guy get split down the middle by an elevator, people rain from the sky, young Sheldon gets crushed by a piano, and Iris herself gets impaled after falling hundreds of feet. It's not exactly the kind of scenario most people would fear happening, like a plane explosion or a roller coaster derailing, but it's a cool sequence.
But Death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans.
The deaths at the Skyview restaurant don't actually happen, of course. It's just a premonition that Iris has, and she successfully saves dozens of lives. But, of course, these people were meant to die that day, and it creates a ripple effect as Death works his way across bloodlines, ending with Iris's family tree. Jumping ahead nearly 60 years, Bloodlines' main heroine is really Iris' granddaughter, Stephanie Reyes, who has repeated dreams of her grandmother's premonition despite never meeting Iris, because Iris' family thinks Iris is a wacko, which she is, believing that death is waiting to take their family at any moment. And Grandma Iris isn't the only kin that Stephanie is estranged from. Stephanie's own mother, Darlene, left Stephanie when her daughter was only 10, because Darlene was afraid of passing on Iris' paranoia to Stephanie. Also, her name is Darlene. Your mom is named Darlene, she's probably gonna abandon you, especially if she was a Home Alone villain. The paranoia is spread to Stephanie regardless, as her nightmares involving Iris make it impossible for Stephanie to sleep and force Stephanie to seek out her estranged grandmother for guidance. And this only ends up making things immediately worse. Iris lives in an isolated, Laurie-Strode booby-trapped house, and Iris explains that death is a force with a mind of its own, and it's been brutally killing all the people Iris saved that day back in 1968.
This book, it will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
And the only way to prove this to Stephanie is Iris taking one for the team, by death causing a chain reaction that launches a weather vane through Iris's fucking face. Savage as fuck.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist.
Iris's death isn't enough to prove that Death has a vendetta against Stephanie's family, but Iris's persistent survival was what kept Death from knocking at the rest of her family's doors. But now that Iris is gone, Death can finally get around to knocking off the rest of Iris's family, who should have never existed to begin with.
Death is coming for us.
And only Stephanie can save the day and try to break the cycle, or at least obsessively try to keep her idiot family members alive as long as possible. Bloodlines is a complicated setup to maneuver its way through, establishing a lineage of characters we've never met in the series before as quickly and efficiently as possible. And it ultimately works out. The characters being family makes it so there's a built-in familiarity between them. Though the characters initially come off as irritating caricatures, but they eventually settled in my mind as distinct but flawed people, with, in some cases, unique traits for Death to take advantage of in, well, their deaths. The characters are largely nothing special themselves, but the performances are pretty good, and to my surprise, the real standout of the movie is Richard Harmon as Eric, one of Stephanie's cousins, who the movie has a lot of fun with as he becomes convinced he's invincible, only to have his world shattered, but Eric still believes he can cheat death to amusing results.
Maybe Death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
Bloodlines feels like it was supposed to be yet another legacy sequel, with Iris likely originally being pitched as a character from a previous entry. But through either a creative decision or somebody dropping out, it led to this sequel being a standalone film, which is ultimately for the best. It makes it so that Bloodlines can act as an entry point for new viewers while still maintaining the series' continuity. No reboot necessary. It is possible that Tony Todd's Bloodworth was originally envisioned to take on Iris' central role, finally giving Todd the spotlight, but Todd's illness prevented him from being heavily involved with the movie.
I'll see you soon.
Tony Todd is in Bloodlines, but only one scene, but it serves as more than just a cameo. Without spoiling things, Bloodworth's role in this film ties Bloodlines together with the previous film, and also explains why Bloodworth has such an intimate knowledge of death to begin with.
If you take a life, you get the time that person had left.
Tony Todd's illness likely prevented him from participating for more than one scene, but Todd's performance in Bloodlines is very brave and a highlight of the film. His scene is a real tearjerker, with Todd embodying the film's message that in fearing death, you miss out on living life. A great tribute to and performance from Tony Todd.
To truly break the cycle, you have to die.
This solemn scene with Todd aside, though, Final Destination Bloodlines opts to just go as ridiculous as possible, especially with the gore. This might be the goriest entry in the series. The gore often looks cartoony, like how the tone of the movie itself can sometimes feel, but the deaths themselves are creative in this film. Bloodlines doesn't bother trying to be realistic or scary. It just tries to be over the top and entertaining, which works for the kind of movie a Final Destination flick is. It's more of a thrill ride. It's fun to watch people die through Rube Goldberg-like chain reactions set off by a mysterious force. A guy getting his nose piercing chained up by a ceiling fan while trapped in a burning building? That's just pure dumb fun. It almost feels like Saw traps with how deliberately designed the death scenarios are in this movie. but with how up their own ass many horror movies can feel like nowadays, it's nice to see something like a Final Destination movie not take itself seriously. My only major criticisms with Bloodlines are its frequent use of CGI and its climax, which, without spoiling things, is a literally explosive finale, but it kinda just felt like the writers were reaching their maximum page count and needed to hurry an ending along within 5 minutes. It's a cool looking ending, but it makes the rest of the movie feel like just the setup for a dark joke's punchline, which, you know, is how most of these Final Destination movies end.
Lovely day today.
Got much time left?
Admittedly, the reason I can't really get into these movies beyond casual enjoyment is that the villain is just an abstract representation of death, which is what makes the series scary. Death can be anywhere and take you at any time.
And you can just drop fucking dead.
But the adventures these characters go on are almost always futile. Death always wins in the end, of course in the long run for most, but usually in the short term for the characters of these films, which does illustrate how important it is to live life instead of worrying about death. Also, death being an abstract in these films means I have nothing to really latch onto like a Freddy Krueger, which is good that New Line didn't make death in these movies a villain you physically see, but I don't really care about any of the characters in these movies besides Todd's Bloodworth. But he isn't in some of these movies, and he mostly just gives brief exposition.
For every life, there's a death. For every death, there is a life.
The Final Destination series has cool deaths, which I like. But personally, for me to really obsess over a horror series, I need an embodiment of evil to sink my teeth into, which the Final Destination series by design can't have. Which does make the series unique, but is also why I personally just like it and don't love it. But I really liked Final Destination Bloodlines. I give Final Destination Bloodlines a young Sheldon getting crushed by a piano out of CGI Space Needle.
Good luck.
Rest in peace, Tony Todd. If you liked this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more videos. I'd also like to thank these fine folks pledged to my shoutout tier on my Patreon for all of their kind support. Videos like this wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you for watching, see you next time. Doc signing out.